Nature's Neighbor. I am your host, Melanie Blankenship, joined with my co-host, Josh Carmichael. And, here we are on Monday, December 8th, 2025.
A sliver left of the year.
Yes, I had to tell myself that it's December 8th, because it's where did this 2025 year go? And yes, you missed us last Monday because we were off. I was in Madison, Wisconsin. Where were you, Joshy? Where were you last Monday?
I have been just working on a bunch of projects around here lately. So
Busy.
It's sunny, nice weather. So I've been outside every day doing something.
Okay, so got home Saturday, and what did I miss?
Yeah, we had good weather. While you were gone.
I just shared with the boys here in the studio that I've never seen temperature -8.
New record
it.
for you.
Madison, Wisconsin. And, it was...
Blowing snow.
It was one day we had sun. Of course, we were at a conference, right? So we were inside mostly, and I told, Simon who I was with and other people, I'm like, maybe that's why they have this farm conference in Madison in December, is so that when they gather everybody.
How do you get farmers from not working?
They know that if it's blowing snow outside, they're not going to go outside. We're not going to. You know how farmers are. We're all distracted. We get squirrel.
Few days they're not working. A few months they're not working out of the year. Really.
Yeah. So how do you accumulate a bunch of growers? You put them in a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
That. It's got blowing snow and 5-foot snowbanks outside. That's how you gather us all together.
That's how you get their attention.
And it did. It got my attention.
That's
but
good.
I'll be honest with you. So, we flew out there Sunday. The conference started Monday. And by Monday afternoon, it was very strange to me to not have warmth or sun. Right? That's when I knew. I was like, wait a minute. But even, so places that I've gone that I'm inside or whatever, up north, we have food choices, right? So when we're inside, we have food choices. It's crazy to me to see how when I eat seasonally or how I eat, I'm a grazer. I don't sit and eat meals often. I graze through my food, right? And it's like what I just did,
we're doing now, yeah.
I need to... Sweet and salty, nothing better than just pick clementine tangerines, right? And that is what I realized again, why I'm here. Why, when that airplane touched ground in San Luis Obispo, early Friday morning, why I am so happy to be a part of this community. We have our fair share of struggles. We have some challenges that are upon us and that are as somebody that deals with upcoming, you remember as a farmer, I'm thinking 3 months, 6 months out. I'm not thinking tomorrow. Yeah. I'm thinking out.
Seasons ahead,
we have some challenges that we're going to see a big change again, right? But going back there and realizing time is different back there. Time has kind of maybe stood still. The movement back there for regenerative ag is huge.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about getting off of chemicals and talking about it though. Are they doing it? I don't know. There's a lot of discussion. But what I am going to just throw out there and what I took away from this conference. This is the EcoAg conference.
You had a lot of great names there.
Oh
I know
my
that.
Gosh.
I wanted to go see some of those guys.
Authors
I love.
You would not believe. We had Joel Salatin called me Smarty because I was drilling him about workman's comp. And so, because he was saying, well, if you do it like this, and if you do it, I'm like, no, wait, you just talked about a 1099er. And I said, but wait, you say 1099, so do you not tell them what time they have to show up? Do you not check to make sure that they're insured?
Not an easy line to draw anymore.
As a contractor, you know this.
Yeah, you have to have licensed subs or you have to have employees.
Yeah.
There's not 1099s in our field,
Yeah, and so we had that. So he called me Smarty. Yo, you're one of those Smarties like that. I'm like, well, if that's what it's called, I said I have to deal with this all the time. So you can't price compare or you can't set guidelines that you're going to have to do it like this, or you should do it like this, or you.
Yeah, each state has different guidelines too.
When you can do
labor.
cheaper, right? And you're allowed to get away with certain things. But because I said that, other people in the conference stood up, and this is, 100 plus people in each conference, right?
Yeah.
There was rooms, this huge grand old hotel, and each room had hundreds of people in each conference that you could
Each speaker,
pick and choose who you wanted to
Yeah.
go see. And it was crazy to me when I said I was from California. Yes, there was 2 others. There was a boy that was walking around with the Templeton Feed and Grain hat
And a
in
kid.
Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm super excited. I can't wait to meet him here. He came out and goes, Melanie from Nature's Touch, and I'm like, woo, trippy, and it was, I was super excited to meet him.
Met a new neighbor.
Met a new neighbor. He's
In
from
Madison.
He's from Templeton. He works down the street, Oh, no. There was a story. So, sat down the night we got there, met this gentleman named Vernon, who's a grower in the Central Valley, who's transitioning to organic. They're huge. They work for a lot of private labels, like,
Sure.
don't even say, but
Yeah.
there's a ton of private labels.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get out of it. He's like, I'm that structure, that corporate structure that everybody says that they're working to get. Yes, my employees have 401ks and they have this. He goes, but what am I really doing? And everything's push button inputs and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it was crazy to me how he was there to try to see how to get out of it, how to simplify his farm, or how to
Sure.
to be better about going organic in what he was doing. But anyways, he sat next to us at the bar. I'm just gonna say it, at the bar. You get out of a
That's where you meet and make a lot of good deals, in business.
You meet people at a bar. Vernon sat next to me. He ended up saying a name. I'm like, you realize that's my neighbor, right? Like my direct neighbor on my farm.
Wow.
And he goes, and he literally spewed about knowing my land, knowing where I'm from. Like, why are you here? What, you live in paradise. And he's from Fresno, right? But,
Yeah.
And he was like, and I told him, I said, I'm here to see what I'm missing. I'm also here to feel remotivated, to get a direction of what way are we really going when it comes to agriculture, pharmaceuticals. So realistically, the way we live, right? Agriculture, because you can't say, even when you live in Paso wine region, you can't say you're for or against agriculture, right? Because everything about Paso Robles region is agriculture.
Well, yeah, you're living a pretty rural lifestyle. I mean, there is some city limits, but
Who pays the taxes?
most of our area.
Who pays the taxes?
Yeah.
It all goes back to
Yeah,
agriculture,
yeah.
okay? So then, then we can talk about pharmaceutical worlds. How's our health? How are we going to live based upon what we choose to put into our bodies, expose our bodies to, or are we looking for a quick fix or a long-term
Yeah,
residual,
yeah.
right? And then it becomes realistically lifestyle. How are we going to really look at the big picture about our whole lifestyle in general? And everything goes back to where you live, right?
Yeah.
Where you call home, whether it's, a permanent home, temporary home, whatever. What do you call home? And that's what I went there for, was to see how the rest of the world, the rest of this country, is really taking to these words. We have a different administration now. I know with USDA that I deal with every day, we are having to comply to so many new things. So when Joel Salatin goes on Polyface Farms, for some of you that may know it, they introduce him as the most celebrity style farmer in the United States. That's how they introduce him. When he goes on and says we need to get government out of our lives or simplify farmer direct to consumer, in his way of getting rid of, getting government out of our lives. When he says comments like this in interviews and emails are getting answered from me in knowing that he's a part of the Maha connection, meaning he works directly with RFK.
To the department.
Actually, in his conference, I know where he's at today. And there's been some things that have been shared with me with his assistants and his people about what is being spoken about from the conference that is being spoken about in the Maha meeting that is happening today, right? So this was last week. We were all at the conference. Now he's at the Maha meeting in Washington, D.C. Flat out told us that we couldn't give much more information because they're all afraid that they're going to be assassinated. And, that then he asked the question, who's bigger? ag or pharmaceuticals? Who's bigger? You know, the big ag or the big farmer? He asked that question when he was talking about his appointment that he has with the health panel on Monday. He asked that, and it was funny because I'm the only one that said they're exactly the same. There's nothing different. The difference is what investment companies own who, or but that investment company owns a little part of this and that, or they're all the same in the way that they're allowed to do things that most people would never understand why, what, or how those size of companies
tax
were allowed
breaks,
to
subsidies,
do. Yeah,
you know.
And it was more about the consolidations. It was more about
Research
the
even.
taking overs. Yes.
They have a lot of room to roam to create something that the people need, you know, which is, like you said, really comes back down to our health and our inputs. And
then so when we started to have these discussions, right? When this is the reason why I went to this event, you know, and to have this dialogue directly with these people, because my question is to somebody who, as a farmer, who has chosen to stay simple, to keep it real, to be transparent, to live within her own community, right?
Yeah.
Rode the wave of the Food Safety Modernization Act of 2004, which is when the Obama administration allowed the complete consolidation of our food system, when it consolidated the FDA and the USDA, right? So there's no Federal Drug Administration and there's no food, U.S. Department of Ag. They're all in the sense of the FSIS, right? So the FSIS is the one who since overpowers all of it, Food Security Inspection Services, right? So once that happened, we rode the wave of all of this. Here we are doing things now that none of us wanted to do as farmers, as business people, as community members. But there's things that we're like super grateful in the knowledge and the research that has come forth that we can now use in our farm businesses, right? Food safety, trace and trackability. Yes, it sounds horrible, but when you actually really start to realize why, because what's really going on out there, you understand why government is involved. And the reason why government is involved is because nobody wants to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take responsibility.
It's our same old conversation, accountability.
Instead of that person not buying from that person, they turn around and they call in government to rat that person out, right? Or let that person be, you know, oh, I'm going to call in government and get that person in trouble. We, as a society, call in the government, or they vote. You know, that was the discussion at this event when how many people, once they found out it was from California, after these conferences, I think I learned a lot inside these conferences, but I think I learned a lot more at the bar. I don't drink alcohol, so I wasn't drinking, but we would go and hang out.
No, those are the best places where you get to talk to people off the record, kind of.
And then, outside the conferences, right? When we were standing outside and somebody walked up and goes, "You're from California?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "What do you do?" And a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? But I'm like, animals, orchards, a little bit of greenhouse, a little bit of row crop, but run a USDA processing plant. And I have our own retail store and have a podcast so we can, in a sense, decompress each week of what's going on in these worlds, because I don't know who else is.
Yeah, open up the connections we need.
And then it became the discussion of, wait a minute, you're in California and you've been farming for more than 10 years on the same property and you haven't sold? How do you afford to do that? So do you have a trust fund? Do you have do you have a company that is umbrellaing you? Are you getting government subsidies? Do you have a grant?
They think California is just...
Are you doing this on a loan? How are you doing this? And I'm like, okay, now I'm questioning myself. I don't know. How am I doing this?
Well, because we were born in the community, so we have those networks that are stronger than, whatever kind of administration's going to come in and move things around. Our things run deeper in places where we have, good, long-standing, generations of, community and people on land.
But Josh, I still pay.
Yeah.
I still pay. I have every permit. I have everything we check the boxes, right? Of what you have to have overall as a legitimate business, right? I have all of those. I've rode the waves of all of that. But you know what I've noticed though, is the difference is people think, and this is, I've gotten it out of a couple people that I was talking about, that it's an 8 to 5 job. I would dream to work from 8
To
to
be able
5.
to clock out.
Right? And I say that not facetiously. I don't. I'm not disrespecting.
No.
But I don't take a vacation in the middle of my harvest.
Yeah.
Or right before harvest. Or,
Or you work till dark
I'm
because,
very
you know, you're
strategic
doing
about
that.
what we plan, how
Or you're
we
worried
plan
about
it.
frost overnight. Like everything is definitely more seasonal than daily. And so an 8 to 5 doesn't really mean anything except for when you can't see anymore, then usually go inside.
Yeah. It was crazy to see how many people that have come from California that are on new soil in that area. There was a beautiful lady. I'm not going to say her name on podcast because I don't have her. But I literally, like, she was core already to me in those 4 days that I got to hang out with her. She did an internship at Kyler Canyon Farm here in Paso.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, I've known those people my whole life. I grew up with the Chase family.
Yeah.
And so I've known them. And she did an internship. Like, she gravitated and held on to me. And I asked her, I said, you know, how do you farm in Wisconsin? Like, from that to that. And she goes, well, I'm done. You know, she goes, we got this early snow. And I'm like, but how do your animals survive? And she goes, well, it's not farming for production now. It's farming for survival now. We have to do different things to keep everything warm and to.
Well, they're
like,
pushed by their seasons to do stuff.
yeah, but they get more of a downtime than
Sure.
us. And then I also started to realize, being at that conference, you know, the whole grass-fed beef, you know, they actually have more time off of grass than we do in California. So it was kind of, you know, because of the weather, they get frost, they get ice, they get snow, they get too much rain, too much mud, too much, you know what I mean? And where we get all at once and then nothing.
Yeah.
And then we have grass for this more period of time. But in this discussion, this big discussion, Josh, is how did we fill a whole conference room of a majority of people? Majority, okay? You want to know who the minority were? The Amish. Sitting in these conferences with these beautiful couple, beautifully dressed, and their little children right next to them, talking. We're in big business, big boy pants kind of conferences. Those little babies were sitting reading. They were playing with little toys. They were so incredibly behaved.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah.
So kind.
Well, their life is very simplified and kept straightforward, so they don't get.
I didn't see any buggies outside though,
distractions.
so I'm
Very
wondering how they
interesting.
got there. But you know, at the same time, I talked to a couple of them, you know, and listening to their challenges and realizing that their communities are changing due to the petrochemicals, and they want to get off of them. They want to get away. I didn't realize how much chemicals they were using.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Well, when the thing shifted, you know, in the 20s here to chemical agriculture, it just kind of swallowed everybody up, I think, in long ways.
They don't use it in their vehicles because they don't have tractors, but they use it in their agriculture.
Interesting,
you know?
yeah.
So
but they were also swept up.
and so it's just different, right? I didn't learn. But this is what I'm saying. They were the only ones that didn't have a California connection. Majority of everybody else was running from California.
Yeah.
They were there to learn how to farm somewhere else.
Sure.
But I've also realized it's like, holy moly, how many people are not grounded, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the one, she's got a beautiful book. She's going to be a guest because I've already talked to her twice since we've left. She left Fullerton, a row cropping, you know, her neighbors did the avocados and the oranges. She did different fruits like strawberries and different veggies. And they did this huge CSA. She owned 3 vegan restaurants in the LA Basin.
Wow.
And so she was at $1 million in fines from the Ventura County and LA County for things like having employment live on their property, moving water without a permit, not being a part of the water brokerage. You know, there was a bunch of things that are happening in Ventura County that San Luis Obispo County is fighting up against, but it's happening in Ventura. She was one of those ones that she said that she sat down one day and prayed. She wasn't a prayer, but she prayed that day and said, please give me a cash offer so I don't have to go through escrow. And literally a week later, she had a knock on her door, a cash offer that was, she told me how much. Absolutely beautiful. You ready? You want to know who it was? The heir to the Moderna vaccine that bought her beautiful organic farm, that is the only one that could offer her a cash offer. And then, how about this? That's the other percentage of people that I was having conversations with, was they're only on land because companies like that, a billionaire, a millionaire, those kind of people buy these lands,
write it off.
and then they put people there, and they're like, I don't know how to farm.
Yeah.
But they want me to learn. They have this land. They want me to do something with it.
Yeah.
You know? I'm
That's like most of the vineyards here and everything,
how
too.
awesome, though, that you don't have to worry about making a profit to pay the bills. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I want an investment company.
Yeah,
No,
well, they know
I'm
that
just, you
they can
know,
hold its value out here.
Right?
You know, like I always say, land is the new gold in California. You know,
And
once
then-
they dug
so
all
we
that
had this
up.
conversation because she ended up getting in my caravan to go to the airport, and then we, you know, had to wait. So we even had this conversation outside this, and I'm like, so what are they doing now? She goes, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
They've let all of my crops go. They can't figure out. I'm like, why didn't they keep you there? And she goes, I couldn't, because the fines followed. You know, they got rid of the fines. I couldn't stay there and have my name on it anymore. They
Oh,
had
so
to
she couldn't
leave.
even
Yeah.
consult or do anything.
No,
really
I
to
mean
that
she does,
extent.
right? She
Yeah.
helps, right? But she doesn't. She wasn't able to. But then she's
Maintain
she's
businesses
invested
of
in
that,
Texas
yeah.
now, and she's like, Texas has their own fair share of problems now too.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm just like, there's so many of hers, like overwhelming amounts of hers, and it's the biggest fundamental problem that I'm seeing for farming, for food, is the fact that we are not grounded. We have too many people either passing away, aging out, or that situation can't afford to stay in.
Yeah.
And people go, when I say that, can't afford, oh, what'd they do? You know, bad business. Who can afford those kind of fines, and why? Because a regulation change? She'd been doing it the whole entire time the exact same way. But oops, somebody behind a desk in a county office, or somebody called and ratted her out because they thought she was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, where do we draw the line? Right? Do I think that everybody that is a farmer is doing it right? No, but
Yeah.
define right and wrong.
Well, everyone's so disconnected from what's going on in the land, you know, and I think we had really good, you know, types of workshops and conferences here in the county where we would get the ranchers and, you know, the farmers together, all the land kind of holders that had big tracts working with the regulators like Fish and Game and those folks. And so we'd had, you know, intermittent stream workshops, or we called them wildlife workshops, or whatever it would be, how to interface, you know, with the land, like with the streams, with the, you know, wildlife corridors, and, you know, with the farm activities. And the people that are touching the land still are farmers and ranchers, and all of us that are out there, you know, on the land, just like the native people were before. And that's why the land was singing and the land was in such good shape. And yeah, a lot of farm, you know, activities, like we said, with petrochemicals and other things, there's been bad decisions, there's been bad conventional
But at the same
type
time,
of
too,
choices.
a lot of these farm to ranchers or ranchers to ranchers in the last 5 years, last 10 years that I've attended, right?
Yeah.
They're changing, and they're almost like acres. Like the last couple that I've gone to are new people to land, right? Or they're part of a grant system, and they've been granted money to, they got to learn how to do something.
Yeah.
They can't just keep spending that money anymore and not have anything to show for it. So then they jump on and they want to get a part of these programs to keep the money coming, right?
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
not doing anything.
Yeah, well, I think like I was saying is that those people are the ones touching land, so we have to work with our farmers and ranchers. And just like in permaculture, we say the problem is the solution. So our overgrazed hills and areas that have been too heavily, intensely grazed, we need to manage the grazing better, or, you know, how we're accessing the land so that it can, you know, in turn feed us and hold us and house us. And so that's kind of where that disconnect is. If people are starting to turn on the farmers, those are the last people doing anything to the land we got. If you don't have them, you don't have anybody in this modern society that is doing anything for the environment.
So-
There's people saying, no, don't touch it, but that doesn't really,
It doesn't
you
work
know,
that way.
solve.
So there was a
lot of
conference that we
issues.
did. It was, I can't remember, it's like cattle to cattle or something. There was a conference that we went into. It was 2 speakers and both amazing authors. Both of them have been in the cattle industry. One was specialized in genetics, and the other one was a holistic. Ready for this? A holistic herd veterinarian. Okay. Did you ever think you'd hear holistic herd working in the cattle industry? Right. His name was Will. Yeah. I'm just going to say his name was Will, so you can go and just Google the Acres Conference and see. So we did his conference. Super awesome. Like, I could not tell you, but his frustration with people wanting a quick fix or thinking that the other way, like, but the cattle industry says we're supposed to do it. He's like, no. You're here because it's not working, right? So we need to look at other alternatives here. Why aren't we before we listen to somebody else tell you how to do it, why aren't we listening to the soil? What grows on that soil? What is healthy on that soil? And he showed like how they were doing, ranging, different sections. It was actually up in Chico, right?
Oh, cool.
There they are. We're back in Wisconsin, and yet the studies happened in Chico. They were showing how was they grazed and how important it was. Timing. Intensity. But you wouldn't know that unless you knew the soil, right?
Yeah.
But then they showed how the cattle's coats and how their hooves and how, things were taking place, when their cycles were happening, and how important it was for them to get a native vegetation, not just grass, and how they got the refuge. But then, and I've always known this because this is, for me, it was very familiar. And then that conference was really busy because people are looking for alternatives to alfalfa and hay, right? Yeah. And so for me, I don't feed alfalfa and hay. Alfalfa is like if you don't come back and get through that fence, you're not getting this. Like, I use alfalfa as bribery, okay? Like, dude, wrong side of the fence, get over here. That's
it's such a water intensive crop, so it's not.
And it's not. I don't see an overall health benefit from feeding that regularly, right? But what I do see is timing in this area a little bit. And as I'm watching things grow and not grow, and how things are decomposing and not decomposing, how mushrooms are growing, how they're not growing, seeing how this happens, and then I'm rotating.
The response,
But most people would say, well, this is not cost effective. Yes, it's not, because I don't have that many head right now, because we have come out of the drought, right? Now, I'm letting breed. I'm bringing in a new bull so that I have better herd management, right? But the craziness is watching my girls, especially right now, eating different things. And it was funny because a person came over a couple of days ago and they're like, Millie, your herd is like so beautiful and so healthy. And they're like, there's not that much grass. You have more grass than anybody else in the county. But she's like, what are you feeding them to? I'm like, well, they get a little bit of sea salt and they get, a little bit of blackstrap molasses. Other than that, they're getting native vegetation. I go, you know what they're loving right now is the thistle. They love, and everybody kept telling us that, cows won't eat milk thistle. That was his whole conference. It was like talking about how herd animals especially, but I watch it in chickens too. They will self-medicate.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to watch them when you give them more space or you keep them moving, what they go to, and or when you keep them there long enough, what they will go to. Long enough, but not to the point where they're
destroying it. Yeah, no, what they like, and everyone likes different things, and that's where the goats are really great because they're more browsers and they'll eat more things than the sheep will, and then the sheep only like their certain things, and then the cows kind of a little more picky. Up to horses are the most picky.
Just because you raise cattle doesn't mean you shouldn't just raise cattle. You need to be able to move things in and out, and how important, and Joel Salatin talks about this a lot too, is, they let the cattle go in, and then they'll let the sheep go in, and then they'll let the chickens go in, right? Yeah. But there's still breaks in between it, and then they'll bring it back, and then, he's like, all these people that have open land, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm driving to Creston, and I'm, looking at everything and how things are growing. I'm reading soil. That's what I do. Every day I'm reading soil all the time. Can't help it. Is watching, and I'll never forget Will's words, is that any landowner that has access to a well-managed herd, whether it be their own or whether it be somebody else's, could not benefit better than allowing them to be on their open land.
Yeah.
You know, and the sad part about all of this is infrastructure, right? If a cow gets out, some landowners, you know, so
Yeah.
there's their insurance and there's a permitting and there's liability issues. But it is crazy, like how much land I'm watching in our area that is dead. It is
Well, yeah, it's not
dead.
the plant's fault and it's not the animal's fault. It's the people. And that's why they say the fence ruined the West, is because, you know, we put up too many fences and it kept, like, you know, just you always go back to the great, you know, prairie, one of our best, you know, biggest grasslands in the planet. And how that was managed was by the bison herds, and they would graze everything down in half, you know, make hoof, you know, divots.
The way they
and
aerate, they aerate that top
yeah,
layer
and then
of that
drop,
soil.
you know, fertilizer, and then move on, you know, and follow the rain. And so people, you know, I think I was talking about this the other day, where just like Lakota people and people on the Plains tribes, you know, they're like, we weren't following the buffalo. The buffalo were following what we had done with the land, and so they were tempting the buffalo to go to these places so that they would take care of that, you know, graze it and move to the next place they wanted them.
Will's conference,
Yeah.
his biggest thing was, why do you think they called it Buffalo, New York? And like he was like saying all these names, right? It wasn't that the Indians, you know, went, you know, that they had just buffalo ranging. They had to go where the buffalo were going.
Yeah.
They migrated with. And why did they?
They forced the buffalo to go where they
forced
wanted
the
them.
they farmed them.
Yeah,
because it was
exactly.
like how, you know, in order to be able to eat berries at a certain time, those berries needed to be pruned back. They
Yep.
needed to be managed.
Yeah, it's just like
And-
using fire in, especially California, Indians would use, you know, fire is a great technology, but grazing animals are another great technology. And they also do a lot of fire, you know, control. So you have targeted grazing, you have rotational grazing, you have all these ways of moving the animals around, and grasslands evolved with these, you know, heavy hoofed animals. So you have to have a certain intensity to the landscape to, you know, allow it to come back. And especially from a degraded place, where everything, you know, started with the Spanish coming here hundreds of years ago, you know, bringing all these heads.
So I'm going to quote another
Herds.
author that also had a beautiful conference too, and his name is Mark Shepard.
Oh, yeah, Mark is great. I love Mark.
He's got a new book, Regenerative Agriculture, Restoration Agriculture.
Sure. Yeah,
So, but I'm going to quote him
yeah.
because even in his book, I've started it. I'm kind of halfway through there. He gave me something in his words when I talked to him at the conference, but then also I've read his book, is don't worry. Nature's way advanced beyond us. He goes, and you carry it in your name, so you should know. He goes, just talking to you, you know what you're doing. And I'm like, I know. And he goes, other people around you won't. He goes, that's why you lead. And he
Yeah.
goes, and be that Mother Earth and herd.
Yeah.
He goes, but the craziness about all of this is think about when I grew up. You grew up back east.
Yeah.
And, you know, companies were allowed to dump into rivers and creeks, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so he remembers as a child that it would change colors, right? And then everybody started getting sick, and then the EPA stepped in, another Kennedy situation, right? And they changed all of that. And he said, that's, you know, why were y'all standing this way? Because that's what they did. They saw the wrong in it, and they stopped it and made it better. It wasn't that they took it away. They knew they needed to fix it.
Yeah,
He goes,
manage
but the
it, but-
problem is that, you know, how do we fix it now? How do we clean this up? Because we're smarter than all of this. He goes, the river's healed. The oceans have healed. Even in my lifetime, he goes, maybe it's not the way it was, but they've healed. They're able to reproduce.
Yeah, we
They're
haven't
able-
completely destroyed things. They come back. I do it all the time with restoration. You give Mother Nature a foothold,
and it comes back. And that's, look at COVID. What COVID did.
Yeah.
I don't ever want it to come back, but as simple as not having people travel and
Or not putting pollution
and
into
not
the
putting
air.
pollution into the air.
Or
how
water.
quickly the earth healed itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was, everybody's wanting to talk about climate change and this, and we're gonna, the earth is gonna do this. Yes, but if we sit back and we allow government to tell us how to do it instead of allowing our own intuitions, our own feelings, our own sensories. Do you smell it? Do you feel it? Do you taste it? I mean, what was today, guys? I needed something salty and sweet, okay? I've had a lot of sweet already, so I needed something salty. It was a craving. I picked up a couple chips. Yes,
Yeah,
look
your body
at
needed it. Yeah.
I needed some.
I sweated enough today to need salt too.
Right?
Yeah.
And why though? Because you're dehydrated. Because we're not warm enough and we're not cold enough, so we're not drinking enough.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not picking up a plastic bottled water full of plastic parts and bacteria that our bodies are not recognizing. It's literally what I did for you.
Yeah.
It's eating things that are whole, that are containing more moistures. But that's also the earth too. It's not just letting it be. It's layering it. It's feeding it. It's being a part of it.
Yes.
It's, does the earth, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it look like?
Yeah.
What is it? And then the thing is, if it smells, I'm just gonna say it, shit, it is shit. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be in it. If it smells musty, if it smells metallic,
it's not balanced.
It's not balanced.
Yeah, it's not right. And so, I mean, that's the village way. I mean, that's the native way. People that know how to touch the land, and we all have that in us. Mm-hmm. And like you're saying, and to use government or to use laws or other certain things like they're doing, that's sort of a last resort, because it's people.
It's a diversion of money.
Well,
that's all it is.
Sure, and it's
Government
enough people
is a diversion of money.
have not taken accountability to where something has to come in and really put it across everybody in blanket law. Blanket laws usually don't apply to everyone in an equal way. They need to be more, regionalized and tailored towards the communities they're serving. And so, yeah, for me too, if it's government grant money or it's government oversight or it's government regulation, all these things, I don't think we need as much as we need community, sources. Mm-hmm. And so if you want money, we've been talking so much more about, crowdfunding for the event or crowdfunding for the project so that people are bought in our community. And we talk about why do we want to eat more local or regional and seasonal is because not only, is it better environmentally, it's better socially, and then it's better economically because our money's staying here. Socially, like when we had the, olive harvest here, it was great because you got all these different people coming in, whether they're farmers or residential.
People didn't believe me back there. That's what we had just come out of. They're like, wait, what? You have to usually travel to Europe to do
something. They're like, we got to go back and have more fun. It's citrus season and avocado season.
No. Joe's house. He's like, all right, Smarty, that's California. You guys have the, and he's like, well, I consult quite a bit in California, and I do this in California. He goes, but then I come home and I go from California like that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going home proudly. And I get to do my chores in my flip flops, and I'm like, we're getting ready to go home and pick navel oranges and avocados. He's like, oh, that's not very nice. And it's like
hey,
that.
Love your region, wherever your region is.
But at the same time, I don't know if I've come back more motivated. Do I feel more discouraged? Do I feel like, yeah, I've done it, And I look at those little Amish babies that were so well behaved, and what comes to my mind is how people are like, oh yeah, that's them, like that's normal. But in my world, in California, I'm not saying that it could be Amish because I love my hot showers, but I admire that so much because I was one of those. I was one of those that's like, why would I do a job or why would I go out into the community and work for a living if my children couldn't be involved in it?
Yeah.
Why would I build something to hold on to if my kids don't know it, right?
Yeah.
I am that person that was like, I have to start when they're babies in order for them to understand what it is I'm going to do to carry it on. The fun thing about my children is they know they have the choice. Do they want to or do they not? They don't have to, Josh. That I'm not saying, oh, you have to do this. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me to see my children want to go out into the world, but they so badly love the fact of being grounded with what my husband and I, Clint and I, have created in the sense of a food community, a farming community, a survival community, meaning you can take everything away.
A thriving community, we call it.
You can take everything away, but we would know how to survive. We could figure out basics.
Well, not only survive, you would thrive. You would be at the top of your game because you wouldn't have to put up with all these other issues that get in the way. Mm-hmm. And I think that something that we always talk about is that accountability. Like those Amish folks, they're taking a lot of things into full accountability. They don't really source outside of, their community much. So they take accountability of being a parent. They take accountability of taking care of their kids, where people now are pushing them off to
showing up at this big event, right? This big conference with their
professional
children.
setting.
Babies in hand, babies on legs, like literally, and they didn't skip a beat. Those
because they don't have someone to watch them and do that.
Not a single one of them had an iPad.
Yeah.
Okay? Like every single one of them were hours in there behaving so beautifully. And I'm going to be honest with you, like it made me cry a little bit because how rewarding and refreshing it was to see that. But that was my life. I could take my kids anywhere. I love
my kids being part of our projects.
I joked around about a food and wine event I did with my daughter.
Yeah.
She refused to stay home with her daddy because she was afraid her mommy was going to need help. Mom was going by herself and she wanted to help. And I'm like, honey, they don't want children there because they have alcohol there. Mommy, that's not a problem. I'll just hide. And I'm like, so what did we do? I knew my child, right? I told her you have to hide under the table. Or you got to, stay where you can't. I'm like, there's no, we got to bring your snacks and you got to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, she made the Tribune. She made every photographer's day because they saw this little blondie step up. I mean, I think she was 4 and she was hiding behind my leg and peeking out, like just to see who was here, right? And everybody caught her. And you see this like look. And I'm like, Savannah, you just got a picture taken. I know, Mommy, but I really don't think he saw me. I'm like, oh, he saw you. Like that. And then it became the conversation. These photographers were walking up to her and saying, what's your name? You're not supposed to see me. I'm not supposed to be. And it's like, the funny. She's like, I tried to give them stink eye, Mom, but they kept talking to me. And I'm like, no, Savannah, just smile and say, but how crazy was it? Then they're like, oh, so your name is Savannah. So what are you doing here? I'm helping my mommy because my mommy needed help. And I'm like, and they're like, well, what do you help her with? Well, I load the truck and then I help her pull out the tomatoes. And then, it's basil season. So I had to help her pick the basil. Like, she at 4.
Yeah.
But why? It wasn't because I was sitting down and teaching her. It was literally that. Come on, Savannah, let's go. Mommy doesn't know what she's doing sometimes, and I don't know what we're getting each other in, but you're my baby.
Well, see,
and we're going to do this together. Who's here right now? Miguel with me. One was adopted, one is my baby, but both my boys are here. Why? Because one went to the plant today and helped me because we had a lot of poultry today, and he's trying to figure out his next step. He doesn't even need to be trained. He just steps in because he already knows it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think we've kind of, maybe made kids be separate from people, but in the Village way, the kids were part of it. And it's like, that's why I said when my kids were little, if I was in the garden, they're in the garden. If I was in the nursery, they're in the nursery. If I was in the kitchen, they're in the kitchen. If I had power tools, they had to have power tools at 18 months old.
That's what I'm taking away. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the fact that there were so many people there searching. And yes, I'm super grateful they were there getting that information because that information was like over the top. Was it something new to me? It was reminding me.
Yeah.
It was in like.
Well, it's good to compare notes with everyone.
Yes,
of our colleagues.
But the people that were there, like it gave me more of a sense of sadness in the sense that there was that many people disconnected from, and they're most
managing the land.
Josh,
and
most of them
the
are
land.
older than me.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I'm like, wait a minute. If I didn't start this also when I was 19.
Yeah.
How would I do what I'm doing today?
Yeah, so much is hands-on experience, in what we do.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what do we have to do do you have land? Do you have community? How do we incentivize people to stay put and learn from where you're standing instead of thinking something is going to teach you something different? For me, I didn't go there to learn. I went there to be inspired.
Yeah.
I went there to be remotivated. But at the same time,
to be in Village
learned
with them.
a lot.
Yeah.
I did. I was super grateful. But at the same time, I'm also realizing that because people are so disconnected, they don't realize what's really happening within their own soil and their own homes that they're living amongst. Mm-hmm. But there's also a bigger issue that I think we're all missing, and that is mental health. Because so many people are just getting through or trying to figure out what next step because they're trying to cope. They're trying to find the energy. They're trying to balance because they've gotten themselves stuck or they're lost. And it's, again, where do we incentivize this groundage of being able to say, I don't need to hear from outside. I don't need anything more than what I already have. Let me put my roots in the ground and grow from there.
Literally.
Like, how do we get...
Well, I think that's it. Like, we've been talking here, and I think what I love about our platform is that it's how do we make a foundation for our culture and our communities to thrive and build upon. And that's what everyone has done over history on lands that they're from. And we just don't have people that are from here anymore. You know, that's why I love having so many connections to all of the, you know, tribes and people that are left in these lands and getting, you know, hands on again, because they're going to do that. They're going to bring the kids into the fold. They're going to have the elders, you know, fed and taken care of. They're going to do things together. The Village Way is really strong. And that's kind of what we need to look at what we're doing, because we've lost sight either by being overregulated, being overtired, being over pharmaceutical. We have a lot of things we put into our life.
No backup. There's not the people that are coming up that everybody thinks that they were supposed to go to school for 12 years and then go on to a 2-year, 4-year university and have the college life and
have
do
2.5 kids, get a BMW, get a white picket fence.
There's no desire in incentivizing to stay put, to learn from. I mean,
or to know a land or to know a place.
Do a trade school. Why do you need to do a trade school? Go to work at the ground level at that company and work your way up.
Or that industry,
or on that company. My brother did that.
Yeah.
My brother went to work at ground level and owns the company now.
Yeah.
So maybe it's in us. That's how we see things.
Well, I think because we live in a smaller community. We live in somewhere where it's simple. It hasn't been so inundated by commercialism, consumerism, you know, by corporations and things. And so, yeah, we do, as people in America, need to put our roots together. I mean, especially when you come from someone like your family's, you know, on the Mexican side, mine from the Italian side. Those people, they brought food traditions with them. They brought holiday traditions with them. They brought, you know, the discipline traditions with them.
Mexicans pick and choose.
And love, right? But I'm just saying,
if you embarrass your elder, you're in big trouble.
Cuidado.
If you're creating something funny, you're on top of the world.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, we have some culture to build upon, and so in America it's such a melting pot. People came from all over, but you know, Europe really divested from a lot of its traditional, you know, culture and tribal culture things, and so we need to kind of put that back together here. And I always say it doesn't matter who you are, it matters where you are. So how do you have a sense of place? How do you understand the land you're on?
So speaking of Mexicans, so there was a group that I used to be a part of, and because I've known Acres and like this whole, and I dig the new owner of Acres. He's a young kid, young family. His wife was pregnant there. So it's huge shoes that gentleman stepped into, but is already running fast in those shoes. So super awesome for what Acres has come from. This is a 50th annual farming conference, right?
Yeah.
That Acres put on. Okay, so super excited. But so long ago, there used to be a group of us that used to kind of get together and kind of do book club and like how do we take something that was written and published in this area, but this is our area. Like, how does this work here, right? Like, you know, Acres will publish things like, you know, how to make a living at farmers market. Like they would publish books like that, right? So there was a group of us, and I'm going to be honest with you. During this time when a group of us would all kind of just have a chat or get together or call each other, a lot of us were Mexican. Yeah. A lot of them were, you know, either green card or some kind of work visa. You know, I was probably one of the only American women.
Yeah.
Most of them were Mexican men, you know, older. You know, at that time they were in their late 50s. I was in my 20s. Okay. Yeah. They were all like, we were all trying to hold on to land or trying to grow food from land or trying to.
Yeah, hardworking people trying to make the next level.
What was my purpose? My purpose was food as medicine. That was my purpose. I love growing herbs. I love growing food. But it wasn't ever about a market like, ooh, come buy from me. It was, I'm going to eat this because I need this for medicine. Let me show you how you can eat this.
Yeah.
And you can do it yourself. And together, if you did a little bit of this and I did a little bit of this, look at what we
Neighbors
have.
help
right?
neighbors. That's just how
That's what my
the village works.
And it's still the same, but it's just mutated, right? I
Yeah.
gotta make a living. But okay,
It's another scale.
So I called a couple of, see if any of them had their still old phone numbers, right? I was cleaning out a seed shed from a couple weeks ago and I have all their numbers. I just called them. Where are you guys? Do you know that all of them, any of them that were on work visas, illegal, all of them are home. They all went back to Mexico. All of them. Not a single, all of them had knowledge that you and I could only dream of, okay? I didn't know that Mexico offers a retirement. If you own land in Mexico, at a certain percentage, you're now getting a retirement in Mexico. And I told them that's not fair because I'm not going to have one.
I have a lot
here.
of friends like that too. They went back and they started growing coffee in Oaxaca or growing, cattle again and stuff.
Most of these guys are in Jalisco or Chihuahua. These guys.
So they got to go home, which is great.
It's great.
But what we lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, so where's that land? Oh, there's houses on it now, Mel.
Yeah.
They took that orchards out. Well, when did you leave? Oh, we left, during, 5-6 years
COVID,
ago
yeah.
or 10 years ago. It wasn't now with all this whole immigration stuff. They left years ago. And I'm like, why?
There's a plan.
There was more incentive to come home and farm because there is an industry now for the EU to farm in Mexico to ship to the EU.
Yeah.
That's what they're all doing because they all learned, they wanted to do it here, but they couldn't afford to. None of them could own
I know a lot of people
land.
have family back there too, so they like to be home.
Nobody
but you're right,
could
they could
own
be here.
land.
They
And
would
they-
stay. They would have stayed if they could. You're
Yes,
right.
they
You're
would
right.
have. They
You're
would
right.
have. They
Because they've
left.
been here so long.
Yes, they left because of financial reasons. And why would they build something here at that point when their whole families are down there? But
Yeah.
that was the whole thing. And I was like, okay, now
And
we
regulations
really,
different and all that.
My thought is we need to figure out our immigration policy.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why we can't have proper documentation that would show that these guys are legit and that they're good and that they can come back and forth and they can teach.
Yeah, it's not
And
a
they can be
question
part
of really legality. It's a question of culture, and
a
we
question
have
of
to say who do we want in our culture. And for California and really so much of the U.S. I mean, this was part of Mexico. This was part of the lands, and all the people that still live across this side of the border, that side, we're all in the same tribal blood, and so it's just not something where you can just move people and draw a line down.
Right.
Some land and say this is different than this side.
I want them back, is what I'm saying, because the knowledge and the foods that they could grow on our native soil.
Well, the community they would build
And
around
sad
them
is
by
that
sharing.
There's nobody that carried that on. And they were, how about this? One of them is living in Puerto Rico right now. And I had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago. And it was so funny because he was like a father figure, he wasn't a father figure.
Tito, like an uncle.
He kept saying how proud he was of me
I love
because
that.
out of all the whole group,
Totally.
I was the only one still in the same soil. Only one.
Yeah.
And there was a group of us. And I'm like, but why are you in Puerto Rico? And he's like, opportunity. He's growing tobacco. And so,
Nice. Cigarrillos.
Yeah. So, and I was just like, I'm like, not back in Mexico? He goes, no, they shipped me here because I farm. I learned I learned how to farm from you guys, and then they shipped me back here. And I'm like, can you just come back? He goes, I don't. He's like, I can't get paperwork.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just crazy to me, like that right there. And it's like,
what are we valuing? What is
Where
our,
is the value?
I always say it's kind of our value system is what needs to change, so that we could, incorporate all these things we really should be doing.
Americans change their value system.
Yeah. And so that's why we're not connected to our food. It's why we're not connected to our lands, not connected to our soil. Instead of the people that have origin stories from here, the people that know how to eat the trees and everything that grows here, we have to stop saying, my thing I just kind of realized is like, I don't want to call this a native plant and call this a fruit tree.
Right.
I want to call this a nut tree and this a nut tree. You know what I mean?
Plant.
It's something you should eat. We have acorns and elderberries and the mushrooms and all the things that are good here that we love.
In the cattle conference
Yeah.
was star thistle. And how dangerous and all this. He's like, California houses all over the place, and we gotta get rid of it. And this is how you get rid of it. And I'm like, it produces really good nectar for bees, and they all went. And then I'm like, and then by the way, if you get it before it stickers out, It actually stimulates lactation in hooved animals. Well, but you got to get it before.
You got to manage your land,
They're
like we said.
They're like, and I'm like, from California. Oh!
Yeah, how do you know all these?
but then it became
illicit things.
And they're like, well, when does it flower? I'm like, for us, and I was giving them soil temperatures. And they're like, oh my gosh, you even know the soil temperatures that it blooms? I'm like, yes. You know, and it was so much fun because it actually, again, there was that food as medicine thing. It's not even just about humans for me. It's about animals too, right? Cattle like green star thistle. They don't like it when it wants to throw up a flower and seed. They don't
all
like
living
it.
things are together on this planet for sure. We're all relatives.
And it was super fun because he's an amazing veterinarian, and and I asked him, he's like, well, I can't practice like this, but I have to practice like that. But we can do it, you know. And I'm just like, no, I get it. He's like, you can't just tell somebody you can go make a tincture or topical, or you can't
without knowing more factors.
Eat that plant because we know it works.
Yeah,
you got to take this pill instead.
Yeah, I think we just have to live a little bit more integrated. We have to be more connected, and I think to me, if we start with the simple things and build up from there, it's not going to limit our cap. We're going to be able to do all the crazy things we do. We just are making life harder than it needs to be.
Yep.
And you need clean air, water, and food to survive. And then when you do things on top of that, then you can, the sky's the limit. Yep. Really, you can push your population to crazy places. But if you're not even feeding everybody, and you're not feeding everybody well, and then you're making them take chemicals in their bodies,
we just started simple and just kept it simple and just focused on simple and just tried hard every day. And just found that peace within what we stand on every day, what we can make a difference. No matter how stupid we think we're going to get or we do get, the earth is going to take care of it. The earth is going to heal itself to the extent that earth needs to heal. It might not be the way that you and I want it to be, obviously, but I'm telling you already, that I'm already feeling the change. I'm already evolving. And we don't have to change for negative. We don't.
Yeah.
We're going that way because people are not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
People are not taking accountability for what they have done, doing, and are going to be doing.
Yeah, or even know to do.
And know
people
what
are
to do.
so confused. And like you said, we
Stop
really
following.
are two people that have put ourselves in that position where we don't turn our back on Mother Nature. And I always say, I love calling it Mother Nature. It's like, respect your mother. Be good to your mother. Take care of your mother. Don't let her be.
I miss my mom.
Yeah, right? If the hills are bare, and it's like, hey, we need to clothe our mother. We don't need her bleeding and sunburning, all these things. We need to put things on the land that take care of her, and she will take care of you. And I think that's something that we have learned from working with the land, is knowing that Mother Nature will always take care of you. If you keep putting in, so we know that economy and that just system is going to be there for us, and we need to reinvest into that place before we go any further. So I think that's kind of
and it doesn't
a
mean
huge
the
point
investment
for me.
isn't about money. It's about love,
Time, energy,
passion,
love, yes, love
sweat
it.
equity. We don't need money. We need people, and we need to divert this direction a whole other way. We need to be grounded.
Yeah.
Be an oak tree.
Yeah.
It's all right.
For this generation and the next.
The next generation and the next. I mean, this generation is what I'm seeing. Food's not coming, people.
Yeah.
It's not people with the water, land, taxes, everything. People can't afford to do it for you. But you have to figure it out.
You got to take your own accountability. We can't do it all for you.
Yep. And so that's...
Till then, we'll feed you.
Yes, until then, we'll keep talking about this and hopefully stimulating the conversation.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm excited to share more. I'm at the store tomorrow, so if you guys want to come to Templeton and come hang out with me, I have a lot to share, a lot to show you,
Yeah,
a
I
lot
have a
to be a
great
part.
cafe project coming up. I'm trying to get some events. I'd love us to all be there, remote, so it's going to be fun. Food, art, music in Los Osos.
Josh and I are trying to figure out our winter solstice event, so stay tuned. Check us out on social media because we're going to put that on the shortest day of the year, and then from that point on, we're gaining it.
Yeah.
That just means that the bees are
Yell
going
for
to
the
start
sun
laying.
to come back.
Yes, exactly. All right, guys. Have a good
Cheers.
week. Take care.